Welcome back to the show. General Jack Keane, Fox News senior strategic analyst and great friend and mentor during all this. So, General Keane, you heard my riff. I'm asking this question. Can these noble missions, which President Trump has bravely taken upon himself, can these noble missions be realized without additional bombing, sir?
Yeah. Well, you're absolutely right. President Trump has brought us to this point. You know, during the 12-day war, when he took down Iran's nuclear enterprise and set it back a number of years. And then, following the 12-day war, we recognized that Iran wasn't changing at all. As a matter of fact, they recommitted to their original goals, and that is to recover their nuclear program. They accelerated the development of ballistic missiles, and they were burying them in deeply buried tunnels, along with their launch systems, that the numbers were growing so rapidly. When you did the math on it, it was alarming to the Israelis and then alarming to us as well, that would outpace our defensive system, the United States and Israelis in the region. So something had to be done here to set the regime back, and that led to epic fury and to the Israelis participating with us in this combined operation for 37 days, which has been enormously successful in setting back the regime, but not finishing it. I mean, obviously, we imposed our will on them, and it's had severe impact on them. But it did not finish. We had about 10 or 14 days to continue to finish that operation. And your question is a good one. It comes down to a couple of points here. One is, if we finance the regime and remove the frozen assets and remove the sanctions, then the regime not only survives, but they're going to recover as a result of those finances. And there is no indication that this regime will moderate their goals whatsoever. Quite frankly, they are likely to be as aggressive as they have always been, because that is who they are. So the second question deals with reversing what we have done. In other words, we have set them back quite a bit. And will they reverse that under another president? That is possible, and dependent on who that president is, because we've had two bad experiences with this, with President Biden and President Obama, it could actually be likely. So those are the issues that the president is dealing with, and that is why a number of us, you and I, Larry, were favoring continuing the military operation to bring the regime to that point where they're not going to be able to finance themselves and recover, and certainly not be able to reverse what we have accomplished. The president has got some real hard deals on the table here in terms of meeting his objectives, and they're maximalist, and it remains to be seen whether the regime is going to agree to them. What they've done here is they're the masters at delaying negotiations. And we have agreed to 60 more days of negotiations. The first phase we're in, and that is to establish a framework so we can build on negotiations to follow that and get the language right for the framework. I would assume that the regime at some point will agree to that, because they would not want that to fail and the president return to kinetic operations. So I suspect the threat of kinetic operations will bend them to agree to some kind of framework going forward. The first issue is the Straits of Hormuz. Likely the Straits would be open. We have the leverage, the economic blockade, certainly to get their attention on that one. Here's what they want. They want to maintain authority over the Straits. They call it territorial waters. It's not.
Nope.
Those are international waters, so we can't give them the authority over it. They want to still maintain that, and we cannot in any way accept that kind of language. We have to insist on language where they commit to freedom of navigation, and that is the reality of it, and we're going to have to be tough about that. But we have the leverage of the economic blockade to help us get there. Then the other things, in terms of all things nuclear, restriction on ballistic missiles, and support for proxies. Those are going to be the tough issues going forward, and that's what will take place in the second phase dealing with the remaining days of negotiation, up to 60 days. Knowing Iranians, they'll want to take all the 60 days and then some. That's where they're coming from on this. And we've seen this thing play out before. And certainly they're very cognizant of the fact there's political and economic pressure on the president. And certainly with the midterms coming, that'll take us into late July. And they're thinking it's unlikely that the administration would reinitiate kinetic operations so close to the midterm election. They're usually wrong when it comes to their assessment of President Trump. That remains to be seen. He holds that card to be able to play, certainly, regardless of what the timing is. But clearly, the impact closer to the midterm elections likely does reduce the reality of that taking place. But we have huge leverage here.
Right.
And our leverage is the money. You put your finger on it, Larry.
Right.
We have the money. We don't let them take the money.
And
that's our leverage.
Fortunately, yes, sir. Fortunately, President wrote over the weekend that the blockade will continue while these negotiations or discussions go on. And not only the cash, sir, but also their storage facilities are coming to an end. Now, experts may disagree, and they may differ on the precise, what day will their storage facilities for the oil end. But we're close to it. If it takes another week, we're close to it. There were, reports of oil spills near Karg Island, for example, which could have been done deliberately by Iran. They're using, 20, 30, 40-year-old tankers. And so that game's coming to an end. That's it for them. That's almost game, set, and match right there. That's their last source of revenue. Now, there may be something sneaking through with China or Russia. I can't be certain of all that. But surely the combination of the economic embargo, the blockade, the economic embargo, the banking freeze that Scott Bessent has set up for all their offshore accounts, of which there are many, and then the storage facilities problem, which they're going to encounter in just a few days or a week or so. That's, we got to let that play out. My hope is we let that play out. But even if all that isn't sufficient to bring them down, sir, I would suggest we must consider the completion of the military task, the completion of the military mission that was laid out by CENTCOM and the Joint Chiefs and others.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. That's got to stay on the table. And listen, for 6 weeks we've been gathering intelligence, because that's how long we've been under the ceasefire. And we've been tracking everything they're doing and excavating the ballistic missiles that are deeply buried in tunnels. We know what's happening there. We know what they're doing with them. And our reality here, in terms of the devastation of an operation being conducted over a 10 or 14-day period, the Israelis are flush with magazine depth for everything they need to do. The United States has moved actually more assets into the region. We have more capability now than we had at the beginning of Epic Fury operation, and we know exactly what we have to go after. The punishment would be severe. And obviously, that is why the Iranians are willing to go to the negotiating table. They're doing everything they can to avoid that thing. The president has thrown something else in here, which I think was quite stunning, and that deals with the Abraham Accords.
Yes.
Now look at Egypt, Turkey, and Jordan. They already have diplomatic relations. They're not part of the Abraham Accords, but they've got diplomatic relations. Bahrain and the UAE, they are part of the Abraham Accords. So what's the focus here? The focus is the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and also Qatar. Now look at Saudi Arabia, Project Freedom. They denied us. Project Freedom was going to open the straits. And in the 36th hour, they denied the United States to be able to use our major base that they had in their country and fly over that huge country of Saudi Arabia, which made our operations very difficult to execute. We couldn't use the major land base we wanted to use. We couldn't use the major airspace we wanted to use. And the other thing is we had to reduce all of our takeoffs from carriers. So that was restricting that operation. This country also put pressure on the president here to go to the diplomatic approach. They feared retaliation by Iran on their oil and gas infrastructure, as did some other countries. They haven't asked us to come help them thicken the defense the way we have for Israel. we could put together a plan to defend them, and they're wringing their hands and not recognizing. I mean, they got to have a little bit of stomach and spine for this. The reality is, we know what we're going to be able to do to stop Iran from retaliating effectively against that infrastructure, and they haven't been effective during the 37 days. I would suggest the president put some real pressure on the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia here and also Qatar in reference to this Abraham Accords. And let's step up finally here, as opposed to all of the soft negotiation that they do in public versus private.
Well, making
and I think bringing them into this is a very real situation,
yes.
and we should use this as a pressure point for them.
Yes, sir. 100%, absolutely. A very, very smart masterstroke here to bring them in to the Abraham Accords as some kind of price for peace in the Gulf region. But we have to do what we have to do, sir, as you well know, and you have taught us millions of people all about this. We'll see what happens. All right, they're going up to Camp David tomorrow, I believe, and there'll be further discussions by our government. And as you have said many times, President Trump is not going to make a bad deal. He's not going to make a bad deal. We both have faith in that. Anyway, General Jack Keane, as always, sir, thank you very, very much. We appreciate it.